Welcome aboard, Mr. and Mrs.
She said, "Welcome aboard, Mr. and Mrs." And the man standing next to his mistress went completely still, because the flight attendant smiling at them wasn't just doing her job. She was his wife. Jordan Mercer had built his entire life around one skill: looking innocent. He drove a charcoal gray Tesla through downtown Atlanta like he owned the air between buildings. His consulting firm pulled 7 figures. His suits were tailored. His handshake was firm. His smile was the kind that made people trust him before he said a single word. People called him polished, composed, reliable. His wife Priya called him home. Priya Mercer had been a domestic flight attendant for 6 years. She was up before the sun most mornings, pressed her uniform without being asked, and still had dinner ready when Jordan came home late. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't loud. But she noticed everything. That was the part Jordan kept forgetting. That Tuesday morning felt ordinary. Priya stood in their kitchen, zipping her flight bag. Jordan walked in, phone already in his hand, tie already perfect. "Leaving early again?" she asked. "Meetings." He poured coffee without looking at her. "You've been doing that a lot. That's what clients pay for." He kissed her cheek the way people kiss envelopes. Automatic. Sealed. Gone. Priya watched him walk out. She didn't say what she was thinking. She never did. What Jordan didn't tell her, what he had told absolutely no one, was that he had booked 2 first-class tickets to Cancun. Not for a business trip. For Kayla. Kayla Brandt was 26, relentless, and allergic to boring. She wore perfume that cost more than most people's car payments. She laughed too loud in quiet restaurants and never apologized for it. She had met Jordan at a rooftop networking event 8 months ago. What started as a conversation had become something far more dangerous. Now she sat across from him at a corner cafe, swiping through resort photos on her phone. "That one," she said, turning the screen toward him. "Infinity pool, ocean view, white curtains blowing in sea air." "Already booked," Jordan said. Kayla's eyes lit up. "You're serious?" "Private villa. Direct flights. 6 days." She leaned across the table and kissed him once, quick and sharp. "And Priya thinks. Conference in Houston." He didn't flinch. Kayla laughed. "You're actually terrible." "She won't check." Kayla tilted her head. "She never does?" Jordan slid 2 boarding passes across the table. Kayla looked down. Her smile stretched slowly across her face. "Departure, Friday. Destination, Cancun International." Neither of them spoke about what happened if anyone found out. Some risks feel too far away to be real. Across the city, Priya Mercer was getting news that would change everything, and she didn't know it yet. Her supervisor called her into the office that Wednesday afternoon. Priya sat across from the desk, hands folded, expecting a schedule update. "We're moving you to international routes," her supervisor said. Priya blinked. "International? Your performance reviews are the best on the team. We want you leading first-class cabin service on long-haul flights." Priya felt the words land one by one, like stones dropping into still water. International flights meant better layovers, better hotels, better pay, and most importantly, it meant she had been seen. 6 years of early mornings and late returns and quiet professionalism, and someone had finally noticed. Her supervisor pushed a folder across the desk. "First assignment is this Friday." Priya opened the folder. She stared at the destination, Cancun. She laughed softly, a nervous, disbelieving laugh. "Is something funny?" her supervisor asked. "No," Priya said quickly. "It's just, my husband mentioned he might be traveling this weekend too." Her supervisor smiled. Small world. Priya closed the folder. She thought about calling Jordan right then, surprising him with the news, but something stopped her. A small, quiet instinct she couldn't explain. "I'll tell him when I get back." She didn't realize she would see him much sooner. Friday arrived fast. Jordan and Kayla moved through the airport like they belonged in a magazine. He wore dark jeans and a fitted gray jacket. She wore a cream linen set and oversized sunglasses. Porter handled their luggage. The priority check-in line was empty. "I love airports," Kayla said, linking her arm through his. "Why?" "Because nobody knows who you are yet." Jordan smiled. That should have felt like a warning. Inside the first-class lounge, they ordered drinks. Kayla flipped through her phone, pulling up the resort's website. Jordan leaned back, feeling the particular satisfaction of a man who believed he had outrun something. The boarding announcement came 20 minutes later. Flight 614 to Cancun now boarding. First class and priority passengers. Kayla stood immediately. "Let's go." They walked to the gate. Passports ready. Boarding passes scanned. The jetway was quiet and carpeted and cool. Jordan could already feel the salt air he was imagining. He stepped through the aircraft door, and everything stopped. She was standing right there. Priya. Uniform pressed sharp. Hair pinned clean. Posture straight. Smile warm. She was greeting passengers as they boarded, voice smooth and professional, the way she always was at work. Jordan's entire body locked. His foot actually stopped moving. A passenger behind him bumped his shoulder and kept walking. Jordan barely registered it. Kayla leaned close. "Why did you stop?" He couldn't answer. Kayla followed his stare toward the front of the cabin. "Which one?" she whispered. Jordan barely moved his jaw. "The one at the door." Kayla's grip tightened on his arm. "That's your wife. She doesn't fly international." His voice came out like something cracked. "She never has." Kayla straightened slowly. "Well, she clearly does now." The boarding line kept moving. The gap between them and the door shrank. 10 feet. 7. 4. Jordan told himself she might not see them. Told himself she was busy. Told himself there were 30 other passengers and she couldn't possibly. Priya looked up. Her eyes found his instantly. 1 second. That was all it took. Recognition moved across her face like a current under still water. Invisible to anyone watching, deafening to Jordan. She saw him. She saw Kayla's hand on his arm. She saw the matching carry-ons. She understood everything in the time it takes to blink. Then, and this was the part that broke him, she smiled. Not a pained smile. Not a crumbling smile. Professional one. "Welcome aboard." Her voice never wavered. "Please make your way to seats 3A and 3B. Jordan walked past his own wife without saying a word. The first-class cabin was designed to make people feel untouchable. It didn't work tonight. Jordan dropped into seat 3A and stared straight ahead. The leather was soft. The lighting was gold. None of it registered. Kayla buckled in slowly beside him. "She recognized us." "Yes." "She didn't say anything." "No." Kayla turned toward him. Her voice dropped. "Jordan, that's not a good sign. She's working. She won't cause a scene." "I'm not worried about a scene." Kayla folded her hands in her lap. "I'm worried about what a woman like that does when she doesn't make a scene." Jordan said nothing. He watched through the gap in the curtain as Priya greeted the last few boarding passengers. Her posture never changed. Her voice never changed. She was flawless. That frightened him more than anything. The aircraft doors sealed shut with a soft mechanical thud. The engines rose to a low hum. Jordan felt the slight pressure as the plane began to move. There was no getting off now. 30 minutes into the flight, Priya entered the first-class cabin with the service cart. Every passenger she passed, she greeted with the same warmth, the same genuine attention. She asked about dietary preferences. She remembered which passenger had ordered sparkling water. She was extraordinary at her job. Jordan watched from behind his screen, pretending to scroll through movies. Kayla leaned over. "She's getting closer. I see her. Don't do anything weird." "I'm not going to do anything." Priya reached their row. She looked at Jordan first. Calm. Direct. The look of someone who had already decided something important. "Good evening. Can I get you started with a beverage?" "Water," Jordan said. His voice came out thin. Priya poured it without a word and placed it on his tray. Then she turned to Kayla. "And for you." Kayla kept her voice bright. "Champagne, please." "Of course." Priya poured. She set the glass down. Then she straightened and leaned just slightly toward Jordan, close enough that only he could hear. "I hope the conference in Houston goes well," she said softly. Then she moved to the next row. Kayla stared at him. What did she just say? Jordan looked straight ahead. He felt cold. The rest of the flight was its own kind of punishment. Dinner arrived in elegant courses. Kayla barely ate. Jordan ate nothing. The movie screens played films neither of them watched. "She knows everything," Kayla said quietly. "She suspects." "Jordan." Kayla turned to face him fully. "She knows. And she's not crying. She's not pulling you into the galley. She's not texting you." She paused. "That means she already decided what she's going to do." Jordan rubbed the bridge of his nose. "You're spiraling. I'm reading the room." He glanced toward the front of the cabin. Priya was speaking to another crew member, laughing at something softly. She looked lighter than he'd seen her in months. That did something to his chest that he wasn't ready to examine. "Your wife," Kayla said quietly, "is terrifying." Jordan had no response, because for the first time in 8 months, he was starting to understand that while he had been planning his escape, Priya had been quietly becoming someone he never really knew. The wheels touched down in Cancun just before sunset. The city glowed orange and gold below them. Tourists pressed toward the windows. Kayla exhaled with visible relief as the seat belt signs clicked off. "We made it," she said. Jordan said nothing. They waited until the aisle cleared, then walked toward the exit. Priya was standing at the door again. Of course she was. Their eyes met as Jordan stepped forward. He searched her face for anger, for hurt, for anything he recognized. She gave him none of it. "Thank you for flying with us," she said clearly. "Enjoy your stay." Then she looked past him to the next passenger. Jordan stepped off the plane. The resort was everything Kayla had pulled up on her phone in that cafe. Infinity pool, ocean view, white curtains catching the sea breeze. She stood on the balcony the first evening with a glass of wine, watching the sun flatten against the water. "This is perfect," she said. Jordan stood at the window inside, staring at his phone. No texts from Priya, no calls, no voicemail. Kayla came inside. "You're doing it again. She hasn't reached out. That bothers you more than if she had, doesn't it?" Jordan set his phone down. He didn't answer. Kayla sat on the edge of the bed. "Silence from a woman like that isn't nothing, Jordan. It's a plan." He poured a drink from the minibar. "She's probably embarrassed," he said. "She won't blow up her own life." Kayla looked at him for a long moment. "She already made her plan," she said quietly. "She made it on that flight, while she was pouring us champagne." The week passed like a slow fever. Beautiful on the outside, wrong underneath. They went to dinner. They swam. They took photos that would never be posted anywhere. Kayla laughed in all the right places. Jordan smiled when he was supposed to, but Priya's silence followed him everywhere. Every morning he checked his phone. Nothing. Every night, nothing. "This is the quietest catastrophe I've ever been part of," Kayla said on day 5. Jordan didn't argue. On the last night, they sat on the balcony watching the ocean. Kayla had grown quieter as the week went on. Less electric. More guarded. "I need to ask you something," she said. "Okay. If she's done. If Priya actually walks away from this, what does that mean for us?" Jordan looked at the water. He didn't have an answer. Kayla nodded slowly, like she'd already expected that. "That's what I thought," she said. She went inside and started packing. They flew home separately. Kayla booked an earlier return. She hugged him at the terminal entrance. Quickly, tightly, with the energy of someone closing a door behind them. "Take care of yourself," she said. Jordan watched her walk away. Then he boarded his flight alone. He drove directly from the airport to the apartment. The elevator ride up was slow. The hallway was quiet. He was already forming the conversation in his head. What he would say, how Priya would react, how they would navigate this. Then he saw the envelope, taped neatly to the center of the front door. His name written across it in her handwriting. Jordan peeled it off. His hands felt different suddenly, not shaking exactly, but not right either. Inside were several documents, stamped and formatted with legal headers. Petition for dissolution of marriage. He read every page standing in the hallway. When he pushed the door open and stepped inside, the apartment felt hollow in a way that square footage couldn't explain. He moved through each room slowly. The bookshelves had gaps where her things used to be. The framed photos from their trips were gone. Just pale rectangular outlines on the wall where the light hadn't reached. Her reading chair by the window, gone. He walked into the bedroom. Half the closet was bare. He went to the kitchen last. Her wedding ring sat on the counter. Next to it, a folded note. He opened it. For words. You should have gone to Houston. Jordan sat down on the kitchen floor. He wasn't sure how long he stayed there. 3 months passed. The apartment still felt like a museum of something that used to exist. Kayla had gone quiet 2 weeks after they returned. A few texts, then nothing. Whatever they had shared in that week in Cancun had dissolved somewhere over the Gulf of Mexico. Jordan threw himself into work. It helped, until it didn't. One Thursday evening, he sat in the back of a rideshare stuck in Atlanta traffic. Rain on the windows, music too low to identify. He was staring at nothing when the car stopped at a red light. He glanced up at the digital billboard above the intersection, and his breath left his body. Priya, full-size, professionally lit, standing in an aircraft cabin in a redesigned international crew uniform, one hand resting on a headrest, looking directly into the camera. She looked the way she had the night she boarded in that airport, composed, certain, untouchable. The billboard read, "Sky First. Experience the difference." She was the face of the airline's new international campaign. The light changed. The car moved. Jordan kept staring until the billboard disappeared behind the next building. The driver noticed his silence. "You know her?" Jordan didn't answer right away. He thought about the morning she stood in their kitchen zipping her flight bag while he poured coffee without looking at her. He thought about the note on the counter. He thought about the way she had smiled at him at the aircraft door. Not with hurt, not with anger, but with the quiet certainty of someone who had already chosen something better. "Yeah," he finally said. The car kept moving. "I used to." He had boarded that plane believing he was getting away with something. He didn't understand until that moment what the flight had actually done. It hadn't taken him to a vacation. It had carried Priya somewhere he would never reach. Somewhere she was already standing, composed and bright and free, and she had smiled at him the whole way there.